and welcome to Tricks of the S-Trade channel. Today is the 29th of June 2018. Today's feature, we're featuring two people who happen to be in the entertainment industry. One of them happens to be Charlie Chaplin. And before I go on, I want to thank a very special subscriber of ours for bringing this to attention. Ferguson, I want to thank you for this, and I hope you're out there and that you're still getting to know more about your world. I want to thank you so much for this. We're taking a look at Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin, according to the official histories here, because you have to understand these are just stories that the Vatican tells us every day to believe that the people that we see on our TV screen happen organically. You have to understand that the way the Vatican operates is this. When they're trying to create history, so for example, let me give you a typical example of the history I'm trying to say here. During the Prohibition era, in which the selling of alcohol was banned in the United States, when the Vatican sets up in motion things that they want to use to control society, they also have to create people that they'll use to influence that particular type of history they're trying to create, so that people can always have some sort of focal point to somebody they can look up to and say, this was somebody that greatly influenced our world, and according to the histories that the Vatican want us to believe in. So that's what the Vatican does rather. They create the history, and they create the people so that we can tie them to that particular history. So if you go through all the great historical people that have existed, that's how they've operated. So because once you control the person, you control the history that's being talked about, then you can control the mindsets of people. So that's how the Vatican operates. So there is nothing really truthful in any of the official biographies that you're going to read about the so-called great people of history. They've all been fabricated for a purpose, to control your mind so you can actually believe in what they're telling you. Because like we've always told you, if you can't control someone's mind, you can't control the person's actions. Because you have to understand that the human body, the whole human body is designed to carry the head, which means the head is the most important aspect of our lives. That means your mind, your intellect is the most important aspect of you. Because like I've always said, no matter how strong a person is physically, if he's not strong in his mind, all that weakness counts for nothing. So, for example, when people ask the questions, okay, if black people have the superior genetics and have the superior physical strength and prowess, why is it that they are not in control? Because with most black people around the world, based on all the histories that the Vatican has told them, especially the current Vatican, which happens to be an albinic one, who can trace their origins down to Asia, and the people who are the elite can all trace their origins to Genghis Khan and his generals. They have created a mindset which has weakened the physical strength of all black people around the world, because they actually believe that they are second-class citizens. So all the strength of those black people counts for nothing. Why? Because the mind is not working. That's just the way it is. So every official history is false. It's just there to give you a mindset for you to continue to believe in the myth of white, or as we call it, albino supremacy. If you're more interested in that, if it's your first time on our channel, because this is Tricks of the S-Trade 2, please get on Tricks of the S-Trade if the channel still does exist, and look for the playlist called The Myth of Whiteness. It will do you a whole world of good. Or you get a book which is the most important book, we believe, besides your Genevan King James Bible, which we should have. So let's get back into this. What I was trying to say, that in today's feature, we're featuring Charlie Chaplin. It says here, let me go into his early life. First of all, it says Charlie Chaplin, Charlie Spencer, or let me call it right. Charles Spencer Chaplin was born on 16 April 1889 to Hannah Chaplin, born Hannah Harriet Pettingham Hill, and Charles Chaplin Sr. It says here there is no official record of his birth, so that means it's a fabricated history right here. They tell you straight up there's no official record of his birth, so it's just assumed that he was born on the 16th of April 1889, and 6 right there, or 16 rather, is a Vatican code of numbers. You can get on the channel on Tricks of the S Trade and look for the playlist called the Vatican Code of Numbers, or look for the Lisa Lopez video, and that will give you some information. But for more in-depth detail on things we couldn't talk about on this particular series, get our book for the most up-to-date information. So this is one of the first persons we are featuring today on a channel, on a video today, and the next person happens to be Kevin Gates. If you've looked, first time I've seen Kevin Gates is a hip-hop artist. Was very, very popular for a minute, a second, and then after that the popularity faded, and now we're hearing stories that he's now Muslim, he's in jail, but all those are fabricated stories, because the reason why is that a lot of people were starting to notice that Kevin Gates kind of looked funny, even though he had this deep, crazy masculine voice, which a lot of people love to listen to when he rapped or sung, but you could always tell that something was off about Kevin Gates. So in order for people not to look deeply into it, or for the public not to be aware that this is not somebody who happens to look like the gender he claimed, the Vatican has created some stories to take him out of the limelight, and for us to believe all those stories now that he's going to be, I think stories we hear is that he's going to be serving lifetime imprisonment. He's a Muslim, he's grown a beard and acting all kind of weird, so that we tend to just forget about him, so we cannot remember what we were looking at. But if you're somebody who's been in the hip-hop scene, for me, I used to listen to a lot of hip-hop music. I'm a music connoisseur, so I listen to everything from country music. I grew up on country music. I've listened to pop, I listened to jazz, I've listened to a whole range of music out there. I listened to Kevin Gates as well, even though I wasn't really it wasn't somebody like I listened to, but I could just dig the voice, if you know what I mean, because the voice sounded rough and hard. But when I looked at Kevin Gates' videos, I was like, there's something very off about this man. That's because Kevin Gates is not actually the gender that he claimed, as we'll find out on this video. So it says here, Kevin Gates was born Kevin Jerome Gilliard on February 5, 1986. He and his family relocated to Baton Rouge soon after his birth. So you can see right there that there's something going on, because when children get born and then they get relocated, that's because some sort of process is going on to change the gender of that child. And so they want to remove him from the environment in which a lot of people would know that this child was born maybe male or female, and then take him to a different environment in which they can actually raise the child away from the people who might actually know how she or he came to be born, so that people would understand that the Vatican is hard at work trying to mutilate these children to force them to be in a sex and gender that's different from the sex and gender that we're born with, so they can be used to control our mindset. We go on to read. It says, Gates had an often tumultuous upbringing and was arrested for the first time in 1999 at the age of 13. That's a Vatican Code of number right there, as you can see, for joyriding as a passenger. When he was 17, he briefly attended Baton Rouge Community College. Gates is of African American Puerto Rican descent. So those are the two people that we're going to be featuring on today's video. And we have some other things that we want to talk about as well on the video today. Today I'm going to talk about so many things. So it might be a long video. So if you can't sit through a long video, I would advise that you pause the video right here and quit. One of the things I'm going to address in this video happens to be a lot of people hear the words that an artist or somebody sold your soul to the devil for riches and fame. And a lot of people try to understand what kind of oaths are taken for that to be effective. Because when you let's just be very, very logical and sincere here. When you say you sell your soul to the devil, let's just be very, because a lot of people hear the words and they don't sit down and think about it if it does make sense or not, to see if what you're hearing is actually true. They just believe what you're told. First of all, you cannot sell your soul to the devil, because the devil, even though he's a physical person, he's not in this world presently. If you studied your Bible, the only two times that the devil has showed up, because if the devil was somebody who would be able to, if he was seen, everywhere, and at any point in time he was virtually everywhere, the Bible would have made records of every time that the devil showed up, all right, and give you examples. But if you read your Bible from Genesis to Revelation, there are only 2 times that the Bible, or let's say 3 times that the Bible specifically mentions the devil being seen physically. And even though the devil is mentioned 3 times, in like he gets talked about 3 times, he's only met with 2 people physically in the flesh. The first person that the devil met with was Eve, all right, or Hava. That's the correct name, because the English language, which was taken over by the Asian, or the by the Asians from Asia, when they came into Europe, the generals and the people who were with Genghis Khan, they changed a lot of things because of how the English language was being used. So English has corrupted so many things. So Eve is not even Eve. Her name wasn't Eve. It was Hava. That was her real name. All right. And you have to understand the letter J is not an English language. The letter J never existed until I think around when it was officially made in the year 1790. For all of this information, you need to get a book to get all that. So the letter J doesn't exist. So that's why, for example, in so many places, you will hear that when they pronounce certain names, the J isn't pronounced, because the letter J is not a real is not a real alphabetic symbol. There's no pronunciation for the letter J. What existed was the letter I and the letter Y. So, for example, in Spanish cultures, they call the name Jesus Jesus, or Jesus. Or you hear the name of Joseph as Joseph. You probably hear the name of Jose as Jose, because the letter J never existed. It's never existed. It's just something that has been imputed onto us by the elite, the current elite today. So that's why we can speak about the letter J. The letter J doesn't exist. All right. So going back to what I was saying. All right. What was I saying? Just give me a whole second. Let me refresh my memory. So what I was saying in essence was that, the 2 times, the 3 times rather, that the devil has been mentioned in the Bible was one when she made with Hava, and I narrated the fact that Eve's name wasn't even Eve, that the name is Hava, because English has corrupted so many things. The second time that he's mentioned is in the book of Job, which we'll pronounce as Job, okay? Actual pronunciation is Job, all right? Because the letter J never existed. Where you have the J, there should be an I. Now, he's mentioned out there, and he did not meet physically with Job. He met with God Almighty. And like I've said before, the book of Job is the most important book that you would have to read to understand life. Because when you, I think we'll create a whole series about it. We got into detail about the book of Job in our book, which is going to be a basic foundation for the series, because we want people to understand that. We think we'll do that, or maybe we'll write another book, and that will be free for everybody who's already purchased the book. We don't know yet how we're going to do that, but that's just that for now. So when Satan appeared, he didn't appear physically. Job never met with Satan. He met with God. Now, the next time that Satan appears is when he is tempting Yehoshua. And if you did notice, all through the life of Yehoshua, there are about maybe 2 or 3 times that Yehoshua actually talked about the devil. So, for example, when there was a one time that Yehoshua was, I think, talking with Peter, and he told Peter how he was going to die, and that his blood would be a sacrifice that would take away the sins of the world. And then Peter said that God forbid that Yehoshua should die. And Yehoshua rebuked Peter and said that Satan was the one saying what Peter was saying. So was Satan at that point in time physically present in Peter? to say that? Of course not. So when Peter was saying those words, he was being influenced by a demon, because all demons are controlled by Satan and his angels, which are not presently in the earth. So the whole entire mayhem that's going around this world is done by demons, not by angels, and not by Satan, who's an angel himself. So Satan, even though he's walking around the world, because when God asked him in the book of Job, Satan, where are you coming from? He said, he's coming from walking to and fro in the earth and encircling it. How can you encircle the earth? You encircle the earth from above. So Satan is not in this world right now physically. He will be, but he's not right now. Okay, so all the mayhem and everything that's going on is caused by demons, because all demons are like a connection. They are the ones who are physically present, but physically present through influencing human beings to do what they cannot do because they don't have physical bodies to do so. Does it make sense? So the third time that Yehoshua met physically with Satan in the desert. That's the whole reason why he met with him in the desert and was tempted of Satan in the desert. If you want to get that information, you have to get a book, because already I'm talking about this and this video is getting too long, because that's why we inform you guys, if you're really interested in the truth, do get a book. If you're just saying that you're interested in the truth without the book, you really don't care about it, because all the information, the in-depth detail is in the book. We don't want to be making this unnecessarily long videos. So if you're on this channel, then we understand that you are in for the truth. You're not just fixated on transgenders and everything. So get our book and get all the information so you can understand everything that's going on. So those are the 3 times or 2 times that the devil has met, Satan himself has met with people physically. So getting back to the subject of what we were saying in terms of when they say somebody sold themselves to a devil, or took a blood oath, or whatever oath that they took, they do not meet with the devil physically. What they do is meet with people, is sign a contract. All right, we're gonna talk all about that later on, but I just want to give you a synopsis of what we're going to be saying on this particular video today. So nobody actually meets with the devil physically. All what they do is sign contracts with people, with organizations which are demonically influenced, all right, and inviting demons into their lives. So that is what they're doing. They're giving demons a legal right. Because you have to understand that every demon in this world does not have a legal right. Legal right means no authority has been given to that demon, all right, to take control of someone's life. They'll try to influence you for you to give them that right to get into your life. It could be one thing or the other. It could be, let's say, from a person, from a belief system that you have. It could be and some sort of addict or a habit that you have. It could be through maybe some sort of secret society or occultic society, which will give them legal right to be the gods in your life. Without that, a demon does not have any legal right over a human being, because in the order of creation, you have to understand this, that it is God first. All right, this is the tier of how things were made by God, the order of things. It is God first and man second, and everything else is below man. Okay? But because of the fall of man, and because everything else that was created in this world, because you have to understand that demons come from angels and human beings, so that means they are not fully human. Okay? Everything else was made to be under human beings. But when man, all right, in the Garden of Eden through the Satan himself, trying to usurp that authority because he did not like the idea that it was God first and then man second above everything else. Satan wanted to find a way to be over man and over God. All right? I don't hope that makes sense so far. So for more of that information, please get our book, because I don't want to be talking too much here and not arriving at the answers because of making these videos way too long. So that is how it's supposed to be. So because of that order in which God made, man was supposed to be, man was supposed to be above every other thing. These demons do not have a legal right, because I've explained, if for those who have read a book, I've made sure to understand that anything that has to do with whatever they call like sorcery, curses, all have to do with laws. If there is no law in place that says that a demon, because God never made that kind of law, that a demon should have the right over a human being's life. When a demon is influencing a human being, he's doing that illegally. There is no law backing him up. So that's why it's very easy to get rid of a demon around you. All right? All you have to do is just quit whatsoever you're doing that's making that demonic influence to have to be over you, and the demon's gone. It's that simple. And you have to do it even in the name of Yahushua as well. All right? So you're taking your stand. So demons don't have any legal right over human beings. So human beings have to create some sort of legality to allow those demons operate. Otherwise, it will not work. Okay? So everything that's going on in this world, all the mayhem, is because demons, people have given demons legal rights. All right? In one way, shape, or form to have influence. So when people are taking oaths, the so-called oaths that they say they sold their souls to the devil, what they are doing is giving entities and deities which are demonically influenced legal rights to have access into their livelihoods in every way, shape, or form. So that's what we're going to be talking about on today's video. And just to dive straight into the first topic. Now, one of the things that I found very, very it's disturbing is the fact that there is an I would say, what's the right word here to use? There is a deviant kind of love that's going on between human beings and pets. It's going beyond the normal nature of just keeping pets. And the reason I'm bringing up this story today is because I read this article. It says here, you could pause the video at any point in time, copy out this link, and go look it up yourself. This particular article says that woman says she killed husband for beating their pet cat. All right. So a lady here killed her husband for beating up a cat. Okay. Now, what I have noticed is that there is a twisted what's the right word? I'm trying to find the right word. A twisted and perverted love. That's the right word. Perverted love that people have for pets. Like I've started like I just said a few minutes ago, that when you have, all right, some sort of perverted, what's the right word? When you have some sort of attraction to something beyond the normal, that becomes a habit. All right, if it's a bad habit, you attract this certain demonic influences into your own lives. And the reason why this is happening, in especially with people who have pets, is because they are giving the love that's been designed, all right, for a human being to a pet. I'm going to explain that in a minute. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with people having pets here, so I want people to understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying anything wrong about people having pets. What we're talking about is that there's a perverted love between people and pets, because people don't understand that that love is not supposed to be directed at an animal, because an animal can never love you back. The perverted love that people have, they think that animals love them. So for example, you hear people, go out in the way they call their dogs, their cats, their pets, whatsoever name, like babies. They treat them like children. You've probably heard of like Oprah signing a will to her pet, saying that the pet has to be in some sort of estate from whatever she has. That all those kind of stuff. You hear it all the time. There's a perverted love right there, because people need to understand this. A pet can never love you back. That so-called wagging of the tail, if it's a dog, or barking and funneling you over, is because the pet is dependent on you to feed and shelter it. If you do not feed that pet, you find out the pet becomes aggressive, and that so-called thing that you think that it loves you is going to start attacking you, because it wants food. And sooner or later, after a while, it's going to see you as the meal plan that it's supposed to have. So a pet can never love you. It's only seeking the food that you provide for it and the shelter. And that's it. It's not love. A human being can still love someone even when they don't have shelter and food, because that's real love. We were designed in the capacity to love another human being. But pets are not designed to love you. They are dependent on you. So if you think your pet is in love with you, you're actually thinking the wrong thing. Now, another thing I have to make you guys understand. If you ever studied your Bible, you will notice that at one point in time, when Yehoshua was trying to cast out a demon that was making a child to fall into the fire and hurt herself or have some sort of epileptic seizure, when Yehoshua was speaking to those demons, he addressed them, and those demons said that their name was Legion. Legion meaning that there were more like up to like 12,000 demons or whatsoever, right? And when they begged Yehoshua not to send them to hell. Okay? They begged Yehoshua to send them into the pigs. Now, pigs are animals. Okay? So, demons can also influence animals. So, the reason why a pet can become demonically possessed and make you think that you may have some sort of love for it is because your own love is perverted, because that's how demons operate. When you give them the legality, the law, because love is a law, all right, then they can come into your life. So why is love a law? Because remember, the very first commandment that God said, he said, you shall love your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And you shall have no other gods before it. So that is a law. So once you take that law of love onto something else, you have created a law, you have created a legality, a connection between you and that thing. And in most cases, there's always some sort of demonic influence behind it. So that's how it works. So a pet can never love you. A pet is like any other animal that you eat and kill. Because, for example, there are in certain places in the world, especially in like China, that they have cat meat, they have dog meat, and they have all this kind of so-called meats from this so-called pets that we a lot of people love to keep. Like I've said before, we are not talking about you having a pet. There's nothing wrong with having a pet, but is the misplaced love that you see beyond the fact that it's just a pet. That's why you call it a pet. It's not a human being. And people get pets because of three reasons only. The first reason is that you're alone. The second reason is that you're lonely. And the third reason is that you're lonely and alone. That means you have both. Now, if you're alone, that can be easily fixed, because you have to understand there are so many children around the world, orphans who have no mom, who have no dad. There is a lot of orphanage homes. So you can adopt a child, all right, and not be alone. Adopt children. I mean, if you have the money to take care of a pet, you should have the money to take care of somebody to keep you company, if that's what you want. Or you go out to the orphanage's home and spend your time there with those children who have no fathers and no mothers. And that way you'll not be alone. Now, if you're lonely, being lonely is a whole different ball game. All right? And being lonely is something that only God can fix. That means there is a void and emptiness in your life. And void and emptiness can only be taken care of in your life if you have something, all right? If you have something that you can put into somebody else. Now, what do I mean by that? I've always defined the fact that success, the true definition of success, is making somebody else to be successful. When you give your life a purpose and a reason for being alive, then you can never be lonely. Because God created us all to be a success. That means making other people successful in whatever you think that you're successful at. So that's the only way you can take care of loneliness, because it's a God-given nature that you find a reason and purpose for living by making other people to have a purpose and reason for being alive. That's the only way you can take care of loneliness. It's an internal thing. So people have pets because of those reasons. So you have to find out, all right, where you are in your pet love. Are you lonely? Are you alone? Or you both? If you don't figure that out, you're putting the wrong love into a pet, because a pet can never give you love back. So when this woman, like the article that we're reading here, was killing her husband over a pet, it would mean that even though she wasn't alone because she had a husband, she was lonely. You can tell just by this picture that she was lonely, because you are not putting your talent, you're not putting your effort into making somebody else to be successful. So that's what makes you lonely. You have no reason and purpose for being alive, because every morning, because there's no greater joy than looking at somebody who could not think that they could be able to do something. They were very, very weak in one thing or the other, and you help them to see, all right, to see the truth and reality of their world. That's my own purpose and reason for being alive, making others see. So whatsoever I am, I'm trying to make other people to be. That's the joy I get. I don't get paid for it. I'm still going to be doing this till the day God takes me out of this world. That is the only way you cannot be lonely, even if you don't have anything, by making other people to be successful. So for pet lovers, I want you to understand that a pet can never love you. Put your love in the right place. And you have to also understand that pets can be demonically possessed, and they can put your whole life in danger, like they've done for this particular lady. So this is one thing that the Vatican doesn't make a lot of people understand. And so they just they place their love in the wrong things and get the wrong results. So with that said, let's move on. I hope the video is not already too long, and let's talk about some few other things before we get into the transvestigation of Charlie Chaplin and Mr. or we'll call her Miss Kevin Gates. Let's go. So in case we have any first-time subscribers on our channel and you've heard all this information so far and you want to keep watching the video, even though we expect that anybody that's on Tricks of the S Trade 2, which is the channel that you're watching right now, should have been on Tricks of the S Trade itself. We believe the Vatican, we believe that the channel is still up at this point in time. We don't know if the Vatican has shut it down yet, but we don't think they have. We expect that you should have been on Tricks of the S Trade to watch so many of our videos so you can understand what Tricks of the S Trade 2 is all about, because we're not going to be repeating a lot of things that we're going to be saying on this particular video. We all expect that you would have been on Tricks of the S Trade before getting on here. But just in case it happens to, because a lot of people don't listen, they think they do, but they don't. But we just want to point you that you have to watch the primer video first, which is the most important video that you have to watch on this channel. You're looking at it right here. It's called Primer. There is a playlist for it on the channel. You should go grab this video, and there's about 3 other videos in that playlist. Especially you have to watch the Primer 2 video, the Theory of Surrogates and the Theory of Surrogates 2. And now with every video that you pick up to watch on this channel, there's a link in the description section. This link in the description section is going to take you to a document. The document is called Male versus Female Visual Differences. We suggest that you download this document, because once you click on the link, you're going to find a download button to the right upper screen. You should just click on it, download it, and save this document to your file so you can study it on your own. Because even though we do a lot of transvestigations on our channel, we hate to do them. We hate to do transvestigations. We do it because we're trying to make people to see the reality of their world, that there's indeed evil going on that's being hidden from your eyes because you have shut your minds towards it. And there is good as well. So there is evil and there is good, and we're trying to open your eyes. So that's the only reason why we do transgenders. We do transvestigation. We hate to do it, all right, because we're here to make you understand the truth, and we've put all that truth into a book. So do not waste our time, energy, and efforts, and keep on asking us transvestigation questions. Get the book and know the whole truth. The videos don't do enough justice because there's so many things we can't talk about on these videos, and for those who have gotten the book, they'll tell you that as well. All right, so getting back into this document, you should study this document on your own, because we're in the neck deeper in the transvestigations that we hate to do. We just have to go through it a little bit quick so we can get into the transvestigations at the end. So what you're looking at to the left of a screen is a female, and you have to understand that we do not deal with the secondary male or female characteristics, which can be changed through surgery and can be changed through hormonal intake, which does not define the sexes in all sincerity. Because you have to understand that the only way to determine the gender of someone is based on their skeletal structure. That's why when people die from dead remains of their bones, we can determine their sex from the skeletal structure, because sex is determined by the skeletal structure. All right, so you always have to remember that. So when you get on the channel and you start talking about the secondary male or female characteristics, all right, or saying that this person's gender can be identified by that, we are going to block you. So there's no slandering allowed on this particular channel. You have to show the skeletal structure. So that means you have to leave such things out as long arms, long torso, a big jawline, a big head, a slanting forehead, brow bossing, Adam's apple, Adonis belts, long ring index fingers, and so many other nonsense that has nothing to do with the skeletal structure. Because what differentiates the males from the females is that females are designed to give birth and a man is not. That's what differentiates the sexes. And the ability to give birth lies in the fact that the female skeletal structure is designed to do so. So that's why, for example, when you're looking at the screen, you find out that a female here has here an arch in her back. Why does a woman have an arch in her back? Because her pelvis is tilted forward. Right, so the spine has to bend to accommodate that pelvic tilt so that a baby can stay inside the womb for 9 months of conception that a baby goes through before he or she is born into this world. And also the arch in the back of a female is extra support so that the weight of pregnancy can be distributed across the female's body without the woman having problems working, hurting herself and hurting her baby. So that's why a female has a deep C arch in the back. So when you're looking at a female back, you have to remember those two letters. A C arch in the female back. If you draw the arch from below the shoulder blades, you draw it from high above the shoulder blade, it's going to form an S-shaped arch in the back. Okay? So remember those letters for females. C and an S in the back. Okay? Now for males, males do not have an arch in their back. A man's back will never have an arch because males are not designed to give birth. They'll never give birth, no matter what stories the Vatican tells you. Okay? Who the Vatican controls and runs our world. They run everything. Okay? So a man's back is always going to be straight. If a man's back wants to arch, it's going to arch outwards into the shape of a D. It's never going to arch inwards. So a man's back is straight, is going to be shaped like a D or a P and no pelvic tilt because males are not designed to give birth. It doesn't matter what the female looks like. There's always going to be an arch in a female's back. Right here you can see a female kneeling down. She has an arch in her back and the pelvis is tilted forward. That's why you see that deep C arch in a woman's back. Doesn't matter what size, what's the ethnicity of the lady, there's always going to be an arch in a woman's back regardless. Okay, so right here I'm scrolling down just to show you some few stuff. So as you can see right here, there's a big female to the left of a screen, arch in the back, a small female to the right of a screen, arch in the back, and the pelvis is still tilted forward because this is how and what makes a woman a woman. It doesn't matter what's her ethnicity, what's the color of her skin, or the texture of her hair. A female always has an arch in her back. All right? Doesn't matter if she's muscular, she's working out. Nothing can change the skeletal structure once it's determined at conception. So when you get up on those channels that tell you, oh, there's such a thing as hormonal intake, people are born androgynous, or some sort of, crazy science and technology that can change a female to a male inside the womb. No such thing does exist. Because if it did exist, we would not be able to tell the sex of a person from dead remains of their bones to know, okay, this baby was conceived in the womb. Because you've probably heard that all the time. They have so many dead fetal skeletons. They say, oh, this baby is a male, even though he or she wasn't born. Maybe a dead fetal skeleton, and this one was a female. How do they know that when there is nothing on the skeleton at all? It's from the bones, because nothing can change the bones. Okay? So it doesn't matter. Nothing can change the skeletal structure of a male to a female or a female to a male. It doesn't exist. It will never exist. So let's get into one more thing, one of the most differentiating factors of the female skeletal structure before we can go on. So I'm going to play a short clip to show you the female hip, which is the most identifying factor of all females. The hips of a female are wider because a female has a wider pubic arch. The pubic arch is the space in between the crotch, and the female has a wider pubic arch because she needs to give birth. All right. So it may not look this way at this picture. That's because there is so much muscle and tissue covering up the pubic arch so you guys don't see. Okay? But a female will always have wider hips, and her hips are always going to be below the crotch. So if you notice that there's so many clothes of a females that are sewn from so many different countries and then shipped to many different countries, how do these clothes fit? The clothes fit because it's generally known in the fashion industry, which is controlled by the Vatican, that the female location for the hip is below the crotch. So every female clothing is sewn in such a way that the widest point will always be below the crotch for that cloth to fit a woman. So I'm going to play this clip so you can see what's happening right here in how the location of the female hip is measured. As the tape goes around right there, the location for that tape is below the crotch, because in a regular female body, the widest location will be the hips, which is below the crotch. So are we saying that a female cannot have a wider shoulder than her hips? No, we are not. But the location of her hips is below the crotch. That's what makes a woman, having hips below the crotch. There's no such thing as hip to shoulder ratio that determines if you're female. The location of your hips determines if you're female, and the location of all female hips is below the crotch. A female also has a very acute Q angle. The Q angle is an angle between the hip and the knee. And it's very acute for females because since the female has a wider pubic arch, everything in the pelvis of a female is further pulled apart. Why does a female have a wider pubic arch? So that a baby can come out of the womb when she is pregnant. Okay? So that's why a female has a wider pubic arch. And females have an acute Q angle which always starts below the crotch. And that's what gives the female that hourglass figure that a lot of males are attracted to. Okay, so this woman is going to turn around so you can see where that Q angle and her hips are from the back. As you can see right there, the Q angle and the hips is slightly above the bum line but below the crotch. And I always suggest in with people who are trying to determine the gender of anybody, if you have difficulty looking at the person from the front, see if you can find a picture from the back, because once you see anybody from the back, you're going to know this is male or female because of how acute the Q angle shows from the back. All right, it's very, very simple. So with all females, the Q angle is going to be slightly above this bum line here but below the crotch from the front. If you find a female in which her Q angle starts higher up away from this bum line, so the Q angle starts somewhere around here and the bum line is right there, that means that person is not female, it's a male. And let me show you an example of what I'm talking about in a picture. So here is a picture of Iggy Azalea with Jennifer Lopez. Now Jennifer Lopez is a bona fide female. You can tell from a Q angle that is below the crotch because of the way she's standing. She's a little bit slanted or diagonal, so it doesn't really show, but you can tell that it's right there and it's not so far away. Like if you want to draw a line, it's not so far away from this crotch area. But looking at Iggy Azalea over here, this is Iggy Azalea's bum line, and look at where the Q angle is. It's so far away from the bum line. Why? Because Iggy Azalea is not a biological female. Iggy Azalea was born male. For more of that in Transvestigation for Iggy Azalea, get on Tricks of the S Straight and look for the Iggy Azalea videos. We have a couple of like imposter videos on him, we'll call it a him, and some regular videos on Iggy Azalea. So that is that. So if you find difficulty, try to see if you can find a picture of the person from the back, because you will clearly show that this person is either male or female. And and with all regular females, the length, you can find out that the female waist, from the waist to her hips, takes half the length of the torso of the body. And also with regular females, you'll always notice like a female starts spreading from underneath her elbows because her pelvic region starts getting wider. The pelvic region is wider so that the baby can stay inside this womb for the 9 months of conception that the baby goes through. So with that, let's continue and talk about a few things, a few news facts here and there before we talk about what it means and how the so-called when you hear that people sold their souls to the devil, how it's done, and the oaths that are taken. We're just gonna give you a few perfect examples because the BET Awards I think came up last or during this week, as I think it was last week, and we noticed some particular things that we want to make you see on that. So let's get into it. So what I want to talk about before we some of the few things that I need to address before we get into looking at Charlie Chaplin and Kevin Gates is an artist called XXXTentacion. Now, XXXTentacion was he was according to the news article that we heard on TMZ, which we're gonna play and for you guys to listen as well, is the fact that XXXTentacion died. I think when was he died? He died on June 18, 2018. Very weird, right? Both 1818. Why? Because 1 plus 8 is 9, a Vatican code of numbers. And how do you get 9? 9 is 3 multiplied by 3, all right? A 33-degree Freemason, you always hear that is the highest code, highest number, or highest level of being a Freemason, rather. And June is the 6th month according to the Gregorian calendar that we're now under. Now, and he was also born on January 23. Weird coincidence. Now, XXXTentacion, according to what we've been heard or what we've been told rather, is that he XXXTentacion influenced a lot of young people. All right. And they're trying to make us believe that XXXTentacion is in the same category as Tupac, influencing a lot of young people, especially the black kids of the world. Now, I want you guys to understand something. In with every generation, they always have to bring some sort of messianic black figure for black people, that so that they can tie their lives or anchor their lives on the lives of those people. So for example, one generation or the other, you always find there's always a slain black figure, so that a lot of black people can tie their whole life history to that person. So all through the generations, let's say, of modern history right here, which is run by the albino elite in the Vatican, they gave us such role models who died to be a symbol of powerful black people, like let's say Malcolm X. You had Martin Luther King. You had Tupac Shakur. There's so many names out there, and now you have XXXTentacion, because like I've talked about the fact before that if you heard it on several videos, the albino elites who lead from the Vatican, who are the great grandsons of Genghis Khan and his generals, who happen to run this world, in trying to create a world, a new world order for themselves, they have to be able to control the majority of the human population, which happens to be black with woolly hair. All right. So in order to control them, you need to create, all right, all these role models for them to look into, because you control those role models. So if you control the role models, then they control the population, then you control the mindset. Okay? So that's how it works. You always control the mindset, and all the power, the great genetics that black people have, their minds become nothing because you control their minds. Does it make sense? So that's how this is done with each and every passing generation. So for example, a lot of people who live in today's world, let's say the older, let's say you're going to be, if you're in your 30s, between 30s, or let's say late 20s to let's say 40s, you would have grown up in the Tupac generation. So Tupac is always going to be, especially if you're a black person, is always going to be somebody you're going to be tying down your, maybe your attitude to looking in life, towards, because that's what the devil always wants you to do. He doesn't want you to know the truth, the real God that you should be looking into. So they create all these other false messianic figures for you guys to look into. So that's just the way it is. So with this next generation that's coming on now, XXXTentacion in the future is going to be somebody that a lot of, so-called black people who are very, very brainwashed can tie their history and their culture to. So that's what happened with XXXTentacion here. So, but let's take a look to see if XXXTentacion, according to what we're told, the history, or according to what we're told of how he died, really does add up, because we know that this is actually a hoax, just like Tupac Shakur, who was probably never in the car that got shot up in, that they said that he died in, because so many of these false messianic figures are actually created hoaxes who never really died. So let's get into this. So I'm gonna play a short clip of XXXTentacion here, because this is the car that he drove, because the story was that he went into, I think, a bike shop or so. On his way out, some gangsters or whatever shot him dead. Now I want you to listen to the specific details of the words that are going to be used to tell us XXXTentacion's death. I'm going to try to close caption it. I want you to pay specific attention to the words, because we're going to address this in another video, the video that TMZ showed, which is up close and personal at XXXTentacion's death. So let's do this.
XXXTentacion, the Florida rapper who amassed millions of followers after releasing his songs on SoundCloud, has been shot and killed near Miami. XXXTentacion, the Florida rapper who amassed millions of followers after releasing his songs on SoundCloud, has been shot and killed near Miami. That according to local officials.
The rapper XXXTentacion has been shot, apparently targeted while shopping for a motorcycle. Chopper 4 was over the scene on North Dixie Highway near Sample Road. The Broward Sheriff's Office says they got a call about the shooting at around 4 p.m. They say the rapper was transported to an area hospital where the sheriff's office says he died.
He was 20 years old. The incident happened just before 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday, when the rapper, whose real name is Jose Dwayne Onfroy, was shopping for motorcycles in Deerfield Beach. A man ran up to his vehicle and opened fire, that according to TMZ. Video shared by witnesses showed Onfroy's body in the driver's seat of his vehicle. He was rushed to an area hospital in critical condition after later succumbing to his injuries, according to county officials. Details about the circumstances of Monday's shooting were not immediately known. Onfroy, whose latest album reached #1 on the Billboard 200 chart, was a controversial figure despite his rising popularity over the last few years. He was facing felony charges for domestic violence against his pregnant ex-girlfriend.
So if you did listen to that video, they said that XXXTentacion died at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Now these guys just make me laugh all the time. 4 p.m. So someone was actually at the scene of the crime and noted, oh, it's 4 p.m. when this gunshots rang and he died. Now, if you also listen to that particular story, they said that XXXTentacion was rushed to the hospital. I want you to remember that. 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and was rushed to the hospital. But we're going to play a clip, a TMZ clip, that actually shows XXXTentacion still in the car. So when was he rushed to the hospital when he died? When the video is going to show him still in the car, all right, and not rushed to any hospital. So let's go over to that TMZ clip and play that, and then come back. So here's the clip I'm going to play for you guys to see XXXTentacion's so-called death, all right? Let me see if I can make this very, very huge. I'll play the clip. So you can see his body is still inside the car. But remember, the news said that he was rushed to the hospital. But here you can still see right there. Let me try to reduce this because I don't know if you guys can see it clearly and run it back a little bit more. You can still see that is XXXTentacion's body in the car. Okay, you can still see that, right? That is his body in the car. So when was he rushed to the hospital then? Because this guy with the camera is up close and personal. And you know, with so many of these hoaxes that they make around, when it's time for them to actually show the images, it becomes blurry. As you can see, this camera is shaking all over the place. And then the camera is going to be looking like it's zooming in and zooming out. You see that in a minute. See, it's now farther away. It's zooming in and zooming out right there, as you can see. Zooming in and zooming out. So what kind of camera phone is this guy using? Because I've never seen a camera phone that can zoom in and zoom out like this, like you see. Because it's all false. XXXTentacion is another one of those hoaxes for the so many brainwashed black people to hook their lives onto and to live their lives in the history of XXXTentacion, just like Tupac's death. And there's something very also that I noticed about XXXTentacion, which I'm going to show you guys. I don't know if it's just a weird coincidence, but I just want to throw it out there so you guys can see. So I found one thing that I found very, very weird was that XXXTentacion, all right, sounds like Jaden Smith. That means Will Smith's son. They look alike as well. So I don't know why they would sound so much alike. So the question is, are they one and the same person? Is Jaden Smith, all right, portraying XXXTentacion? Because there was one article. There was something that happened over I think some time ago, which I just thought, because I'm always looking at things and I notice stuff. Now, during the Met Gala Awards, because Jaden Smith's son looks so much like XXXTentacion, even though they say Jaden Smith is 5'9" tall and XXXTentacion is 5'7". Their body types look kind of different on stage. I don't know what it is, but I just want to throw this out there for, you know, the people who watch, to have something that they can think about. Now, Jaden Smith's son always had dreadlocks like this. He's holding those dreadlocks in his arms right now. And XXXTentacion himself wears a lot of dreadlocks. Let me see if I can find his picture again here. As you can see, XXXTentacion also wears dreadlocks. So they always looked alike. Both of them had dreadlocks on top of their head. Now, during the Met Gala Awards, for some reason, Jaden Smith's son decided to cut off his dreadlocks, and when he did it, he showed it in the Met Gala, all right? So it was like, why is it so particular that you have to show us a picture of your cut dreadlocks in your arms? Are you just trying to tell us that this is now how you look, and you look different? Is it just a coincidence? It's just a question I'm asking, because all of what I couldn't see for the life of me why it was so important that you cut your hair off and you just showed it to us that you did. Is this a way of the Vatican trying to tell us that Jaden Smith is not XXXTentacion and trying to keep both images separate because they were so similar for a very long time? Now, mind you, I'm not saying that Jaden Smith is XXXTentacion. I'm just throwing stuff out there for you guys to take a look into, okay? And just wrap your minds around it and see what's going on here. So that's one thing over there. And another similarity, like I said before, is that XXXTentacion sounds exactly like Jaden Smith when they speak. Now here's a video of XXXTentacion right here. I'm just gonna play the audio only, and you guys are going to listen. You could pause the video at any point in time, copy out this link to go listen for yourselves and hear how XXXTentacion speaks. Okay, I'm also gonna play Jaden Smith's video, and I want you guys to listen to how they speak and see if you can notice any difference at all. I'm just gonna play only the audio, so remember that. So let's get into this. XXXTentacion first, and then I'll play Jaden Smith.
When I want, because I'm gonna do what I could have while I could have.
I was born fat.
doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be anything that requires school, you go to school. Take yourself to school. If you need anything, if it requires school, take yourself to school. I do not shun school. I will not say fuck school. If I ever get ignorant and playing around and shit, I'll say it. But nigga, like, some people need school. I'm not about telling kids to drop out of school, because if you want to be, look, my plan A and my plan B is this. Look, when I came up, when I grew up, my main things were this. I either wanted to be a UFC fighter, I wanted to be a football player, or I wanted to be a rapper. Those are the only three things that applied to me. None of those require school.
So that was a short clip of XXXTentacion speaking. So now I'm gonna play the clip of Jaden Smith speaking, so you guys can tell if there's any difference in the sound and the modulation of their voices. They all sound like the same person to me. Now remember, like I said before, I'm not saying that XXXTentacion is Jaden Smith. I'm just throwing some stuff out there just for you guys to consider. Is there a possibility? Because we already have shown you that this guy's death is false, because they said that he died at 4 p.m. and that he was rushed to the hospital. But the video, which is supposed to show him being rushed to the hospital, we're still having a camera all over his body. So when was he rushed to the hospital? So let me play Jaden Smith's voice over so you guys listen to and see if there's any difference.
Hills behind me, and the Falcon over here, kind of like the Scumfuck Flower Boy cover, with the mountain range and the sunset, with the pink and the clouds. And then could you just put like Sire above like me, kind of in the back, like in the yellow, animate dreads on me. I'm Jaden Smith and this is the world according to me. Batman saves the day. It's simple. He'll pull up and just flex, and then everything will be better when by the time he's done flexing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why Batman is just so amazing, because he helps people. He helps the helpless, you know what I'm saying? And he puts a stop to people that are not doing dope stuff. Simple as that. I feel like I've always known about Batman. I felt like I never discovered Batman, that Batman was always a part of me since I was born. And one day that...
So that was an audio of Jaden Smith speaking, and I'm telling you that they all sound the same as XXXTentacion. Now let me show you one other, like a weird coincidence that I found while looking at this too, because I'm always like, when I have photographic memory. That's the best way I can put it. I remember things. I remember exactly when it happened. So I'm always trying to, you know, put things, or fix things in their place. If it's a puzzle, how does that relate to one thing or the other? So that's just how my brain works. So let me play, let me show you, not to play, rather, let me show you one more weird coincidence that I found amongst these two, between XXXTentacion and Jaden Smith. So let's get into that. So XXXTentacion here was born Jose Dwayne Ricardo Onfroy. He was born January 23rd, 1998. Okay, and died June 18, 2018. So I want you guys to remember that. Okay, January 23rd in 2018. Now Jaden Smith was born Jaden Christopher Sire Smith, born July 8, 1998, the same year. They are only 6 months apart. Did you guys notice that? And here's the funny thing that I also noticed about between the two. If you abbreviate Jose Dwayne Ricardo, or let's just say Jose Dwayne, the first two names, it's Jaden. So J-A for the last letter, for the first letter, and D-N-E, Jaden. Is that a coincidence? I don't know. Somebody should. It's just something I just noticed, because those first letter, let's say abbreviations of those names turns to Jaden. Jase, Dwayne, J-A, Dane, Jaden. Right? Same thing here. So I don't know if these guys are one and the same person, and Jaden Smith is just playing a cameo as XXXTentacion, and it's being used, like I've shown you, that there's no way that XXXTentacion could be dead, because the story here doesn't add up. to what we've been told, the official reports. And like I've said before, the Vatican is always created, all these black messianic figures that a lot of brainwashed black people can be used, so their mindsets can always be controlled to make them believe that they are the minority and to always have an inferiority complex, so that they can never know who they really are, that they are the majority of the world's population, and therefore we can always keep on believing in the myth of white supremacy. So we've wrapped that part up. We want to talk about what one of the main reasons for this particular video, which happens to be how the so-called what they call when they say somebody has sold them themselves to the devil, how it's done, and the oaths that are taken behind it. And we're gonna start that off by looking at the BET Awards, in which something very, very particular did happen, which a lot of people didn't notice. So let's get into all of that. And I hope that these videos will be allowed to play and with no copyright infringement, so you guys can get the full details. If not, then that means from this point in time the video is going to be re-edited, and you guys won't get to see any of those part of the stories that we're going to tell you. So but let's get into it. So how do artists or people sell your souls to the devil? How? Because the question we need to ask is this: if you guys have been on Tricks of the S Trade for a long time, you've seen that we've exposed a lot of mutilated males and females. We've exposed on all of them, seem to not have any way of. I mean, the basic way I could say is that nobody in the industry seems to be able to say anything at all. Even those guys who are not mutilated or transgender, as the case may be, for example in Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx here. And a lot of people always ask the questions. We know that, for example, maybe you've known some of these so-called celebrities, or the people you grew up with, and you've met them before, and you think that you did know them, and you know that maybe from childhood most of them didn't happen to be let's say in any sort of like crazy occult foundation or one way or the other. They were involved in all of that. You happen to maybe know their parents and everything else. And so sometimes it gets very difficult for you to believe that these people can actually be part of the sinister system that's murdering people at will, taking young children and making them to be a sex and gender that's different from the sex and gender that we're born with, and that all these children are there and nobody seems to say anything about it. And you ask yourself this question: how is it possible that such a big secret can be kept? Now, one of the many answers that you're going to get when you ask those kind of questions is that these people have sold their souls to the devil, especially if they weren't groomed from childhood to be a celebrity, as most of the people in Hollywood have been groomed since childhood to be there, especially the ones that are mutilated, either male or female. So how is this done that such a huge secret is kept? And these guys don't seem to say anything about it. They just, even though they're gonna be, the person right in front of them could be a mutilated person, they don't say anything about it. They just go on and then they tell all these crazy lies to make you believe that these people are actually normal people. So how is this done that such amounts of secrecy can be kept? And then you are right. Then possibly, if you've believed all the stories that you've been told, you'll believe, okay, that this person sold their soul to the devil, and that's why you're not able to say anything about it. For riches and fame, they did this. So what we're going to show you here is how it's done. Now, what we have to pay, I'm trying to make you guys pay particular attention to, is that this was a story that happened at the BET Awards here, which I was watching. And it happened right after this particular scene right here, in which Jamie Foxx tells Michael B. Jordan to say something on stage. Now, the BET Awards, as they call it, is Black Entertainment Television Awards. A lot of black people get sucked into the idea that the BET Awards is actually designed by them. But the truth is that the BET Awards is designed by the albino or white Vatican, as they call it, behind, and the black people are just the face of it. They have no control over what's being said here, and this is how a lot of people get sucked into actually thinking that the BET Awards it's something very genuine which they can watch. Now, how you're gonna know that this is totally controlled is by what Michael B. Jordan says here. Because even though the BET Award is made to portray some sort of black excellence, it's used to control the mindsets of black people all around the world. Because especially in the United States of America, they still want to make all the black people around the world believe that they were slaves, that they came on slave ships from Africa. So in order to keep perpetuating that lie onto the masses generation after generation, they always have to say something to make your mindset believe that you were born a slave and that you came on slave ships from Africa by this particular statement that Michael B. Jordan is going to make. So I'm going to play this very short clip from here so you guys can listen to this particular statement that he made.
One line that is so significant for today right now. I want you to say that line if you would, because it means so much. Can we get that line? Oh, man. You sure? Bury me in the oceans with my ancestors because they jumped from the ships because they knew that death was better than bondage.
So you can hear how a false narrative right there has been made to sound very, very unique and empowering. And black people, especially in the United States of America, are going to believe this and soak that in. Because the idea of he made the statement and said that this is something that he can tie down. Michael B. Jordan said that he can tie down to his ancestors, that it was better, right, to die than to live in bondage by jumping from slave ships, from the ships. They didn't say slave ships, but he said ships, so that black people will always have in their mentality that they came as slaves from Africa, especially those in the United States. So that's the whole reason for that very short clip. And everybody was clapping as if he said something so great. You can hear the cheering and the roaring. And I mean, this is a ridiculous amount of stupidness. But that's just by the side. So the whole reason of me getting to this point is because I want you guys to notice, because in the BET Awards something very, very unique happened, and here's a story of what actually happened. Now somebody came on stage. His name, I think his name is Davido. Davido is an artist. He's an artist from, I think, Nigeria. All right. Nigeria is a country in West Africa today. And he was collecting an award for the best international act for Nigeria, right? And in this particular statement, he made a statement while collecting the award that he wanted to pay his condolences to somebody else who's also in Nigeria, who happens to be a very popular act as well, and that person's name happens to be I think his name is D-Bench. D-Bench is also from Nigeria, and as you can see here, you can pause the video at any point in time and copy out this link. And he was making this statement, or the condolences that the guy over here was making to this other act in Nigeria, was the fact that this particular fellow here lost his son in an accident I think some sort of freak accident in the swimming pool. I think that's what happened. I think that's what actually, that the guy lost his son in some sort of freak accident in a swimming pool. I think that's the story behind it. Now, why is it so particular that I'm making you guys listen to all of this? It's because I want you to understand how when someone has not been trained, all right, from childhood, and it's not mutilated, that means the Vatican hasn't trained that person from childhood, and they're trying to influence somebody else, all right, who's a great talent, because this kind of cases always happens in sports, because sports is one of those areas in which you can't deny talent. Talent always comes first. So when you're trying to control the talent and trying to control the talent so that you can use them to influence the world, because when these talents come up, especially if it's a sportsman or sportswoman who's very good at what he does, he's going to make a lot of money. And money, like I've said before, is a form of control. In order to make sure that the money this person has from their great talents is not used to influence the world in such a way that is going to affect the Vatican and its new world order, you have to make sure that you put this person in a position in which all the money they have, they're going to spend it on nonsense. Because you would find that most celebrities in the world are very rich, but the money is spent in such a way that it doesn't make any sense. They buy things they don't need. They send money to people who don't need it, and all these crazy things, because the Vatican doesn't want you to using that money to upset the balance of the new world order that's going on. So that is what we're trying to show you in these examples of how it's done. So I'm going to play this short clip, and I hope that it gets through to YouTube. If not, it's going to be taken down and we have to read this, and you guys are going to miss all this. But if it doesn't, then I'll still explain the story at the end, but you guys won't be able to just watch this part of the video. Now, this guy here in Davido, a Nigerian act, is going to say some words, okay? So I want you to pay attention to those words, because we're going to connect what he's saying to this other, to the person which he's talking about, which happens to be this guy whose name is D-Benj from Nigeria as well. So let me play this short clip, then we can continue on.
Before I go on, I want to send condolences to my big brother, the actual artist that paved the way for us to be on this stage, the Banj. My condolences are with you. You're my brother. And as I go on.
So you heard the condolences. Now, before what this guy was saying, he's paying respect to this guy. He's giving condolences over something. So while watching the BET Awards, I was interested in what sort of condolences. Why is it so important that you receive an award and you have to pay condolences to somebody else? Now, before we go any further, I want to show you something very, very particular. Now, the BET Awards, which was held this year, was held on June 24th, 2018, okay? 2 and 4 is the 6th, right? June is the 6th month in the Gregorian calendar that we have. So that's a Vatican code of numbers right there on 6/6, okay? Now, so when Davido, the Nigerian act, gave a condolence, he was giving condolences to this guy, who's another Nigerian star, I think. The reason for, as you can read this article right here, which was updated on, this was updated June 25, but the actual incident didn't happen on June 25. It says that this Nigerian singer, D-Benj, loses son in swimming pool drowning. Now, this was very weird, and is reported on CNN. Okay? All this will make sense, in a short notice. Okay? So just follow me on this, all right? Now, if you go, when we read this particular article, it was said that, let's see how old his son was when he died in the swimming pool accident. Let me see if I can find that in here. So here we go. So, he lost his son on the bench. Lost his son was 13 months. It's a 13-month-old baby, in short. Okay, let me just say it out. The son is 13 months old. So I want you guys to make sense of this. All right. Now, a baby, 13 months, I believe, the baby would have just started walking, and this guy called D-Benj is a superstar. It's a superstar. That means he's very rich. He's going to have a lot of saying this just breaks my heart to understand that how these people operate. Let me just keep talking, okay? So the bunch, as they call him, is a superstar living in Nigeria. He would happen to be very, very rich and very, very wealthy. Okay, That means he would have maids upon maids and people to take care of the son. All right, a 13-month-old baby. Now, you have to understand, at 13 months old, no baby is gonna be able to open doors. Okay, open the door, and someone would actually be in constant view of that child at 13 months, because the baby can barely walk. It's just, I think so, the baby would have started of walking maybe a few steps by that time. So I want you to picture this for a second, that this baby, all right, goes through the door and walks into a swimming pool in a very rich man's house, okay, with a lot of maids, fell into the swimming pool. Now, if the baby fell into the swimming pool, for how long did the baby fall inside that swimming pool? How long before someone who's always a guardian, who's supposed to be around, 13-month-old baby who just barely started walking, would notice? So all these facts should show you that this baby didn't just drown. Someone intentionally did this to this child. Okay? That's my thoughts. There's no excuses about it. A 13-month-old baby cannot walk into a swimming pool and drown. How long did the baby stay inside the water for someone to notice that the baby had been inside the water before he or she would jump in to take that baby out? Now, according to the story, they say that this guy over here was out of the country when this happened. All right. Let me see if I can read that. It says, so it said that he was currently in the Americas for the BET Awards. Posted a black photo on his Instagram page with heartbreaking caption. So the story is that he was out of the country when this happened. All this because, remember, like I said, I showed you guys before, the BET Awards happened on the June 24th. And this means that the baby's death would have been on June 23rd for it to be reported on June 24th. And June 23 would still be a Vatican code of numbers. So how does all this play into what I'm trying to tell you? I'm trying to show you how oaths are made. First of all, this baby is a 13-month-old baby. That's another Vatican code of numbers, right? So, and the baby would have died on June 23rd. Another Vatican code of numbers. So, how is all this playing? It's an oath. And how are oaths taken? It's always taken with a blood sacrifice. A sacrifice. So, what this just shows you is that this guy, this Nigerian, has been indoctrinated. An oath has been made, and that so-called, when you hear when they say he signed his name in blood, this was his own sacrifice, because no baby, 13-month-old baby, is just gonna drown in a swimming pool. All right. So this is how oaths are taken. All right. They are taken in two ways. For those who are not born into it. Born into it means your family is not one of the great families of the Vatican. You're not a mutilated man or woman who's been bred from childhood to be in the position that you are. You're somebody who, through your own talent and hard work, happened to climb up the pedestal of life, and the Vatican every day and night is trying to influence you. They influence you first by, taking you to their parties, and then from their parties, they indoctrinate you into the Masonic system, and from the Masonic system, then they devise for you to make a sacrifice to tie you down. And this is what the Nigerian here would have done in his 13-month-old son, which I believe did not just drown, but intentionally made to be a sacrifice so that he can be the superstar that he's supposed to be for the Vatican. So here's how it works, how the oaths are taken. The oaths are taken in two ways. Like I've said before, if you're not born into it, you don't belong to the great families of the Vatican, the oaths are taken in two ways. First of all, when you come up the ladder, maybe through your hard work, they're going to tie you down with a contract. Okay? Now, the contract is for the public. So, for example, here, maybe in a couple of months or years from now, the branch is going to be given a mega $1 million contract. All right? The mega $1 million contract is just for the public. That's what we see. The mega $1 million contract is going to be some sort of contract that's going to stipulate that he's under some sort of rule or whatsoever, and he doesn't have to break that contract. So that contract gives the Vatican the right to use the so-called judicial system which they own and control to come after you when you break the contract behind, for example, here in Deban's son's drowning, all right, on a particular date, and a 13-month-old baby is a Masonic contract. That's the contract behind the contract. So that's why this guy here in the video had to publicly come on stage on the BT Awards and to announce that that contract has been executed by telling the world that he's giving condolences to this guy over here. All right, the guy we just showed you over here. He's giving condolences to this guy over here, so that the Vatican would know that the contract has been sealed. It's a public announcement, so that all the Masonic figures who happen to be at the BET Awards, which is a Vatican-controlled award, would know that the Banj in Nigeria, Africa, has signed a Masonic contract, a blood oath of sacrifice. Does it make sense? So the first oath or first contract is the public oath, which it will be in like the documents of whatsoever company that signs that contract with whosoever with this guy will be there, and that's the legal one which the Vatican holds, so they can come after you. Have legal right to come after you because they can't talk about the Masonic contract in public. That's a secret between them. So the blood oaths, or the oaths that you hear that somebody signs the soul to the devil, is in two parts. The one that's public, that gives the Vatican the legal right to come after you and use the judicial system for whatsoever reason for you breaking the contract behind the secret one. In this case, in which the drowning would have been a contract, the drowning of Debanje's son would have been a contract. Okay? For him to be accepted into the Masonic-hood as an oath. So that's how it's done. So I just wanted to share with you guys so you guys can understand how these things is done, that when the so-called blood sacrifices are made, they're not made to any devil. They are made to men who are influenced by devils. And that's just the way it works. Nobody signs their contract with the devil, but they sign it with a sacrifice, and there's made of two contracts. A public contract which gives the Vatican the legal right to come after you. They can use the cops. So for example, let's say for example in Bill Cosby's case, all right, he would have signed a legal contract, and that contract gives the right for the Vatican to come after him and use the slew of fake women which they said that he molested to come after him. But there would have been another Masonic contract behind, because Bill Cosby is a Mason himself. Bill Cosby would have offered some sort of sacrifice, a blood sacrifice of a kinsperson or somebody for that sacrifice to work. And that's the same way it always works all the time. So when you hear this public condolences or whatsoever, it means that something has happened in the Masonic organizations behind. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. I don't want to get too long-winded. So I hope you guys learned something. Let's get into the Transvestigation of Charlie Chaplin and Miss Kevin Gates and wrap up this video. So here is a picture of Charlie Chaplin. As you can see, the way Charlie Chaplin places his hands on his hips, and this hourglass figure that you can see right here shows that Charlie Chaplin was not the gender that he claimed. Charlie Chaplin is 100% female, because if you want to look at where the navel, the possible location of the navel based on how this body is, the torso of this body is, where do you think the navel of Charlie Chaplin would be at? It would be right around here. And that's way too high deep inside the torso of the body for it to be male, because if Charlie Chaplin's crotch is right here, which you can see that's where his Q angle actually starts, because it's female, there's no way that Charlie Chaplin's navel can be right around here. It's always going to be above the waist point, and right here is where Charlie Chaplin's navel is. That shows you that Charlie Chaplin is 100% female and not a man as he claimed. Let's more pictures. Here's Charlie Chaplin again. As you can see right here, Charlie Chaplin has a very long length for the pubic region, for his pelvis. If his waist is right around, you can see the length this travels. Even though this picture is quite blurry, let me see if I can blow it up so you guys can see that. You can see how large this pelvic region is. See how long this travels. It's blurry, and you can see how huge, right? How huge the joint is inside the pelvis, because it's only females that have this kind of huge pelvic joints, because of being meeting a requirement to support the weight of the pelvis for pregnancy. You can see how huge this joint is and how it travels, because Charlie Chaplin is 100% female and not a man in any way. Let's go to the next picture. Here's Charlie Chaplin again. We already showed you that the possible location for the navel would be right around here, and is set way deep into the torso of the body for it to be male, because Charlie Chaplin is 100% female. Another picture of Charlie Chaplin, and you can see the leg cross. If we study both the leg crosses up, because these are two females right here, you can see that the leg cross is the same, is deep inside the thigh, and we fully see the knee right here. Right? See the leg cross? Because of a wide pubic arch that Charlie Chaplin would have, same with the female that she's sitting with, enables this leg cross to be so acute deep inside the thigh, and is fully exposing the knee underneath it, because Charlie Chaplin is 100% female and could not be a man anyway. When you take a closer look at that face, let me see if I can blow this up as much as I can. Take a closer look at that face, you will actually see that that's the face of a female. That couldn't be any man in any way. So Charlie Chaplin, in which a lot of people grew up on and have watched, Charlie Chaplin could never be a man. Let's go to the next picture of Charlie Chaplin, and look at that. Look at how long. I mean, if Charlie Chaplin's waist is right here, you can look at the curvaceous figure of Charlie Chaplin, and how the cocking of the pelvis is angled out so much outside the torso of the body. Why? Because it's a female pelvis. This is how all females would stand, right? Cocking the hips and the pelvic region. And the arm placement is way too deep inside the torso of the body, because the navel of Charlie Chaplin would be right around here based on this body as we're looking at. It can be right around here, because that's where the belt would go around for the female, pelvic region. The navel would be right around here, because Charlie Chaplin is 100% female, and you can see the curves underneath the clothes. Charlie Chaplin, 100% female, couldn't be a man. Let's go to another picture of Charlie Chaplin, and you can see how long this butt area travels all the way down, because if this is Charlie Chaplin's crotch and this is his waist, you can see how long this pelvic region would be. And you can see that the acute Q angle starts here, and the long female butt shows you that Charlie Chaplin is 100% female and couldn't be a man in any way. Been deceiving a lot of folks for way too long, and she probably died with this secret. But today, a lot of people will know that. We just wanted to show you Charlie Chaplin's face here, that this face is actually female and could not be male in any way. When you take a good look at it, you can see right there that Charlie Chaplin is 100% female. Let's go to another picture, and this Charlie Chaplin with an arch in the back, the long butt of a female traveling all the way down. And it's one time I watched Charlie Chaplin, because there was this act that came up And this female was trying to act like Charlie Chaplin. We claimed that she was a woman, so she just put on a costume and put on the mustache, and we were like, but Charlie Chaplin was a man. We didn't know that the Vatican at that point in time was just laughing at us, just trying to make us understand that Charlie Chaplin that we thought was a man was never a man in any way, that Charlie Chaplin was female. All right? So that's how the Vatican mocks us every day. And Charlie Chaplin, he has an arch in the back, clear as night and day. If you wanted to end the video right here, this would suffice, because Charlie Chaplin is 100% female. You can tell even by the face and mannerisms, because like we've always explained, the way a woman acts, she doesn't just act because she's acting that way. It's because her bones make her act that way. We act the way we are because of our bones and our bone structure. And you can see with Charlie Chaplin's face, laugh, and posture tells you that Charlie Chaplin is 100% female, because she has an arch in her back. Let's go to the next picture of Charlie Chaplin. Here's Charlie Chaplin. I think, I don't know if it's his daughter, but we can tell right here that these are very humongous hips, very curvy too. Couldn't be male. And you can see how acute the Q angle is from below, even with so much clothing, because it is Charlie Chaplin's waist. Where is his navel? It's going to be right around here, because that's the waist, or where we find the waist going, where he wears his belt. The navel will be right around here, because Charlie Chaplin is 100% female, not a man. Let's go to another picture, and you can see that female stance right there, clear as night and day, hourglass figure. Charlie Chaplin, 100% female, and arch in the back, as we can see right there. Let's go to another picture of Charlie Chaplin again, and you can still see that female stance and the cute Q angle. Even with so much baggy clothing, you can still see the acuteness and the humongous of the humongous nature of the hips, and the cute Q angle which is below the crotch, because Charlie Chaplin is 100% female and not a man in any way. Here's Charlie Chaplin on the floor. You can tell, even though this picture is blurry, let me see if I can blow this up. You can see that that pubic arch right there looks very, very wide, and you can see how long the butt of Charlie Chaplin travels all the way down, and this is a cute Q angle, as you can see right here. Even though this picture is blurry and black and white, but you can see the long butt travel all the way down, because Charlie Chaplin is 100% female with a wide pubic arch and could never have been male. Been deceiving us for a very long time. When you look into their eyes now that your eyes are open and you know what you're looking at, when you look into our eyes, or the eyes of Charlie Chaplin, you can actually tell you've been looking at a female all along. So let's go. I think that's the last picture for Charlie Chaplin. Let's switch gears and get over to Kevin Gates. So here is Kevin Gates, and one thing you have to notice about Kevin Gates, which was very, very particular, is that, I mean, we see a lot of, brainwashed young black males sag their pants. But Kevin Gates took sagging of pants to a whole different level, because when I saw Kevin Gates sag his pants, I was like, dang, what kind of pants sagging is this one? The reason why is the pants sagging, why it looks so unique on Kevin Gates, is because Kevin Gates has the long pelvic region of a female and not that of a male. So that's why his pants sagging looks kind of different. Because if you notice in this picture right here, here is a male sagging his pants. You can see how high up it is, because the male have a very short pelvic region. So you can't really do much trying to sag your pants. It's not going to hang so low. You can see right here. Let me see if I can blow this picture up so you guys can see that very, very well. Okay? So here is a male sagging their pants, right? You can see how short the distance is from his waist down to where his crotch area would be, because the males have a short pelvis. But in Kevin Gates, this is where he sags his pants. If this is his waist right up here, the length travel all the way down is too long, because females have a longer pelvis, all right? And it goes deep inside to the torso of the body, because the reproductive organs need to be inside the pelvic region. So that's why Kevin Gates' pants sagging always looks kind of strange and weird, because she has the long pelvic region of a female, because Kevin Gates is 100% female and not a man in any way in hip-hop. Let's go to another picture of Kevin Gates. So that's why you can tell from this picture, just you're looking at a female, what they call what's the female term for it? They call it a butch lesbian. You can say that that's a woman, because no matter how much you try to be male, if you're female, your bone structure is always going to show that you're female, because his sex is based on the bones, not on your appearance or clothes or surgery. So that's the reason why Kevin Gates always looked this way, because Kevin Gates is female. That's a butch lesbian walking around. And the pants sagging, always unique, because the length of the pelvis is longer, because Kevin Gates is 100% female, not a man in any way. Let's go to another picture of Kevin Gates. So that's why he's sagging. You can still see he's trying to sag right here. And you can notice that it's a very long sagging pant, because Kevin Gates is 100% female. Just looking at that face, looking at a woman, you can see that the cuteness of the Q angle here, of the way it starts from the crotch area, because Kevin Gates is 100% female. Some more pictures of Kevin Gates. And here's Kevin Gates without clothing. You can see that this is a female body. You can see the female indentation above the navel starting so way high up, because that's where his rib cage ends, and that's where his waist would naturally start. And see how long this travels down, and see how high set in the torso the navel is, so way long further away from his crotch area, which would end right here, from where he's sagging to hide that female Q angle and hips. See the length it travels all the way down here, because Kevin Gates is 100% female. And you can see there is no narrowness around this pelvic region here. All right. And usually with males, in which a lot of people will always say that males have an Adonis belt. Well, where's the Adonis belt? Right here on Kevin Gates' waist, if he's male, because he's not male. Kevin Gates is 100% female. You can marinate on this picture for a while, because if you wanted to end this video right here, this would suffice, because Kevin Gates is in no way a man, 100% female. Let's go to some other pictures of Kevin Gates. We just wanted to show you this picture of Kevin Gates just to know that it's female. Just looking at the face, the dreadlocks and everything, trying to act. I mean, this Kevin Gates trying to act like me, all right? But Kevin Gates ain't no male, because he can be a male, because he doesn't have the bone structure to fit one, because Kevin Gates is 100% female. Some other pictures of Kevin Gates. And here's the pants sagging again. You can see how long it travels all the way down, because it's a female pelvis, and not the male pelvis. So that's why it was always so unique. And the sagging of the pants is just to hide that female hip and Q angle, which the Vatican would have designed Kevin Gates to hide right from the get-go. But Kevin Gates wasn't very successful, you know, because even though the music, I didn't really listen to it. It's just something like maybe I listened to when it came on the radio. But besides that, she couldn't really convince a lot of people that she was that good, because Kevin Gates is 100% female, not a man in any way. Let's go to another picture of Kevin Gates here. You can still see the long pelvic ridge all the way down here, because that's where his Q angle was be right around there. That's where his crotch would be, right around there, trying to hide those hips, all right? Trying to hide, because his crotch, here's the location for where that Q angle will start, and, you know, that's where Kevin Gates, you know, is trying to hide those pants with, because Kevin Gates is 100% female, all right? And now the Vatican is trying to tell you that Kevin Gates here is in jail, is now a Muslim, because they're trying to just get rid of the memory before it becomes fully exposed that Kevin Gates was not the gender that she claimed, because the public was starting to pick up like, this dude looks funny. You know what I mean? Especially in hip hop, in which a lot of machismo is scrutinized. And here's Kevin Gates sitting down. You can see the long butt of a female traveling all the way down here to sit, because Kevin Gates is 100% female. All right? Who knows where they get all these children from? That's what I keep saying. Look at the long butt of a female. Kevin Gates, 100% female. We have some more pictures of Kevin Gates that she can't hide. And Kevin Gates, you can see there is this picture, there is an arch in this back right here, but it's a subtle arch, because the prolonged use of like drugs and everything, and you can see the tilted pelvis here is forward, and see how high the navel is set inside the torso of the body, because Kevin Gates is 100% female. All right, with the long butt of a female traveling all the way down. See how long that butt travels. See how long. If this was a male, this pant sagging would be right around here, half the way of this Kevin Gates butt. But see how long the butt travels all the way down to below the crotch, because that's where Kevin Gates' hips are at. this Q angle at below the crotch. That's why this pants can hang right there, because the pants will always hang at where, you know, the widest point of the body. So with males, since males have their hips right here, which would be the narrowest point in a man's body because the shoulders are wider, the pants sagging would hang around here. But with Kevin Gates, it's right around here because that's where his hips is at. And you can see the pelvic tilt, like I said, the navel here and the pelvic tilt, because Kevin Gates is 100% female and not a man in any way. All right, here's another picture of Kevin Gates. You can see how wide the pelvic region is. Let me blow this picture up so you guys can see that clearly. Where's my picture blowing up? See that? See how wide this is, and see where he hangs those pants. That's because that's where his hips is at, below the crotch. And see the pelvic region deep set inside the torso of the body. You can see the pelvis is tilted forward and it's wider. Now there's some sort of body contouring down here because Kevin Gates must have gone through surgery to try to make this pelvic region to be narrow, but you can tell that it's all off because it's still a female pelvic region. Remember, when a woman puts her arms around her body, you start noticing that you start getting wider downwards, right? Because the pelvic region just starts expanding, and that's what's happening to Kevin Gates right here. And he's hanging his pants below at where the Q angle is because Kevin Gates is 100% female, just trying to cover up that acuteness of the Q angle. But you can see how wide the pelvic region is, very huge, because Kevin Gates is 100% female and not a man. Here's Kevin Gates again. You can still see that dip set navel inside the torso and the pelvis that's tilted forward because Kevin Gates is 100% female. And now here's Kevin Gates because this is a little gif that I saw. You can see that's a female butt walking around. Don't worry, we have some more pictures. You just can take a look. You know, that's a female butt right there, even with the way the underwear is showing right here. We'll show you some more pictures. That's a woman right there. That's a female, a black woman with a humongous butt. We'll show you some more pictures of that. Here's Kevin Gates again, and you can still see that he gets wider from underneath the elbows. Elbows right here, he starts spreading wider. And there's no that so-called Adonis belts that people love, which always shows up on the males because of the narrow pelvic region and hips of a male. This doesn't show up on Kevin Gates because he's tried to do some sort of like body contouring here, but the whole thing is messed up because he just makes it so slender. And you can see how the tummy curves because Kevin Gates is 100% female, wider from the pelvis all the way down. We don't know what's hanging in there, but it can be real because Kevin Gates does not have the skeletal structure to fit that of a male, but only that of a female. Let's go to another picture of Kevin Gates. Same thing here. You can see that? That's a woman right there. That's a black woman. That's a black woman, not a black man. See how deep set the navel is. And all this tattoos is just trying to cover up the female form so that we don't know, because you can see how narrow Kevin Gates' shoulders is because this is where his shoulder is, and see the location of the hips out here. It's outside the torso, shoulder inside, and this is outside. With males, it will never happen. There is no male hip that's going to be wider than his shoulders, ever. But in Kevin Gates, he has that. And see how deep set the torso, the navel inside the torso of the body because it's all female and huge, humongous hips. And trying to keep a frown like a man to deceive us that he's 100% male when he's not. Kevin Gates, 100% female. Let's go to another picture of Kevin Gates. You can still see that pant sagging right here. It's below the crotch. And who's this guy right here? He's a popular artist. Let me see what his name is because I want to give you guys the right information at all times. So the rapper's name is Yo Gotti. This guy right here, his name is Yo Gotti. So Yo Gotti, who happens to always talk so hard and so tough, he's truthful, he's honest, he's everything that you guys want to, understanding hip-hop rapper to be, was telling you the truth. He should have told you right from the get-go. We have a female, a butch lesbian over here in Kevin Gates pretending that they are male or that he's male. But he never told you that. Why is that? Because you have to understand that the whole entertainment industry is based on oaths, and all these guys are Freemasons. So that's why they tell you that they keep secrets all the time, or you hear that all the time, that they keep secrets, because they're all controlled by the Vatican. None of them is working in your own best interest. Do not make any role models of all the satanic worshippers out here. because they are not working your own best interests. Your only role model you should have is Yehoshua, and by the grace of God, He will lead and guide you. So don't worry about these people out here. They have nothing for you. Here's Kevin Gates again. As you can see, the long butt of a female starts showing way too much. You can see how long it is and how it curves, because here's where Kevin Gates' Q angle starts. I can see how long the butt is, because Kevin Gates is 100% female and not a man in any way. The Vatican created this, but it's not been working out, so they're trying to remove it from public view. That's all what it is. And here is Kevin Gates again. We tried to show you that earlier before, the arch in the back. You know, he's had some sort of a body contouring to hide, but you can still see that he has a very small rib cage which ends right around here. As you can see, that's not the rib cage of a male, because if there was a male, the rib cage would extend all the way down closer to the waist of a man. But this one is high up here, because that's where the female waist usually starts. And Kevin Gates has an arch in the back with a pelvis that's tilted forward, and you know, the deep set navel right inside the torso of the body, and a pelvis tilted forward, because Kevin Gates is 100% female. Let's go to another picture. And here's the picture that we showed you the GIF before. You're gonna see that that's the humongous butt of a black woman, and not that of any black male. You can see right there how huge and humongous it is, and you can tell by how the underwear that Kevin Gates is wearing is lined up. That's the underwear of a female and not that of a man. Of the way it lines up right there, clear as night and day. We should end this video right here. That should suffice, because you're looking at a female butt, a black woman's humongous butt, and not that of any male, because Kevin Gates is 100% female. Let's go to another picture of Kevin Gates. Still the same thing happening here. The huge, humongous butt of a black woman. And you know, like I showed you before, where he's hanging those pants are way too low, because he has a huge, humongous butt and a long pelvic region of a female. That's why it's hanging that way. It's always been so unique, because Kevin Gates is 100% female, not a man in any way. If you've been sleeping on this, then you should be awake by now and see that you've been looking at a female all along. Here's another picture of Kevin Gates. You can still see how the pelvis is huge and spreading right here, because Kevin Gates is 100% female. The pelvic spread, you can see that huge, humongous pelvis of a female and not that of any man. Kevin Gates again. This is how ridiculous you see how the pants sagging is just plain ridiculous. And I think this pants could be specially sewn to make it look this way, because it doesn't look like any male pants to me. I think it's something that's you know, specially designed for Kevin Gates to make you know, to cover up the long you know, pelvic region that he has, and to hide that he doesn't have any male crotch, but that is a female crotch, because Kevin Gates is 100% female. So if you've been admiring Kevin Gates, you should know that you've been looking at a female all along. And the so-called wife that he's married to, that means there are two lesbians right there, and you probably thought you know, it's a heterosexual couple, when the Vatican has been presenting to you two females in a homosexual couple, or two lesbians. All right, so let's go there. Another picture of Kevin Gates still then, and you can still see the high set navel inside the torso of the body, and the pelvis is still tilted forward, and all these liars and deceivers around her trying to make you believe that Kevin Gates is 100% male when he's not, when he's actually a female. So we've come to the end of today's particular video, and please do subscribe. Do get a book, because you've seen there's so many strikes that the Vatican has landed on each specific account that we have. And like we said before, we're taking our time to build our website, because it's going to be something that has never ever existed before. So because maybe they're not right now on tricks of the S trade 2, doesn't mean that the Vatican will follow us down here. They will, because we have agents everywhere on our videos. They're all here. They're subscribed to the channel, and they're acting just like regular people. So these channels will go down at some point in time when we are starting to knock on the door a little bit too much. So please get our book. It's very, very important. Save towards it. The price of the book is not of our own doing. If I had my way, the book would be free for everybody. But the cost of producing it, and the Vatican makes it so expensive to have a book printed in color, and we wanted you to get all the information in color, because making it in black and white, it wouldn't suffice, because we have highlighted so many things that you guys should take notice of, and so many images in the book to give you clear clarity and understanding of your world. The videos will never do enough justice, and like we've said before, the videos on anything digital can be corrupted at any point in time, because that's what it's designed for, so that they can change things at any point in time or corrupt it, so you don't have any useful information. So that's why we put all this information in our book. Our contact information is going to be on the screen, so save towards it. Get our book so you understand your world. You have something that you can leave for the next generation, something you can hand over, so that people, because with each generation the history gets more distorted and we lose a lot of things. So this book is our own, service to humanity and to the grace of God himself, who gave us the ability to put it together. So with that, sorry about that, it was a long video, but I hope you learned something, and stay tuned. And I leave you with these words: look with your eyes but see with your brains. And I'll talk with you guys later.